it. But look, Pokemotion riders coming through now. This is going to be nip and tuck on the line. Down to Clay's putting on the pressure. I think he's going to do it. It's 2.2 kilometres to go. The game of chess is started. Is it cat and mouse? There's a little bit of a trail off the back now. He could be losing a few riders. Lindbergh puts the pressure on. He's riding at 39 kilometres an hour on plus 1% grade.
Okay, good evening folks, and welcome to another Southburr District Wheelers Friday Frenzy. Stage 2 tonight, and we're in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Sarajevo is the course. We'll pull it up in a moment for you to have a look at. But it's an interesting profile this evening. Here we go. This is our first look at it, and you can see that it more or less starts with a climb, which I think is going to be pretty instrumental in sorting the group out very early on. Now, we don't normally get this. Normally the riders have a chance to get themselves into the mix, but I really feel that it's going to be a little bit of a sort out. It's only a short climb, but it's enough, I think, to split the field. So we'll see what happens. We'll see whether that's the way it pans out. 22 kilometers, and as you can see, only 162 meters of climbing, but that climbing comes right from the off. So it's going to make it a little bit interesting. There is a bit of a kick towards the finish, but not enough for the climbers that have got away to worry about. Now tonight's event is brought to you by the pedalers. Each week one of the RGT groups chooses the course, and this is their course for tonight, the Sarajevo Gran Fondo course. And we'll give you a look at next week's course later on in the broadcast. Now I've no idea how many folks we've got signed up to this until we actually hit the start line, which we will be doing pretty shortly. Here we go. So we've got 2 in the Zoom room already. We might have more to join. I'm not sure, Damon hasn't filled me in on this side of it, but you can clearly see 2 of the riders, one in the Southborough District Wheelers jersey in the Zoom room, and we'll get back to them later. 53 riders online I'm seeing, so that's a good turnout for, I mean, don't forget it's Easter Friday, Friday evening, so that's a pretty good turnout for what is going to be for many people family time and a busy period, with it being the Easter holiday. So I think this is an excellent turnout, and hopefully it'll be an excellent race. I'm pretty new to this Friday Frenzy setup. Normally my colleague Chris Hearns does the commentary, so bear with me as I try and pick up the riders I know. I mean, I should know most of them, to be fair. Now, as I said, you can see that, yeah, it starts off, I think the first kilometre, it starts off fairly gentle for the riders. It is slightly uphill in a short while, but then it really kicks into the red. And that's where I think we're going to see this group, and it's a rather large group at the moment. I think we're going to see the split happening when we get to the climb. But here you can see the Danes always, there's quite a few in this event as well, but the Danes always willing to push off the front and work for each other. So we've got Christensen here pushing off the front at the moment, but tucked in behind him is Hansen, Tange and Host. So yeah, the Danes always make a good showing early on. Well, I'm saying early on and towards the end. They've got some very strong riders, but we've got some pretty good, I mean, Gav, we know all about Gav Ash here. You know, we've got some pretty strong riders here which are not going to let an early break go. I don't think we'll see any 1 or 2 solo riders breaking away on this event. That sharp climb is going to keep the stronger riders together, and I do think the big group that you're seeing up front will split. I don't think all this group are going to get over this first climb together by any means. How many have we got in the front at the moment? I can see about 30 riders in this front group, so it's going to be an interesting dynamic. I can normally read these, but I don't really know how steep that first climb is. But it does look, looking at the graphic, looking at the red, it does look like it goes up probably about 10%, I would say. And if that's the case, then we are going to see a break there. I mean, we're looking at the riders that have been dropped off the back already, and this is to be expected with such a big field. You're always going to get the riders that are just along, trying to sort of like, you know, stay the pace for the race, but not able to match the opening salvo from the big hitters. It is easier if you can manage to hang on the back of the group, which is why you've got 30 riders in that front group. But these are the riders that have been pushed out the back, and they won't get back on. I'm pretty sure of that. Even these 3 riders, I don't feel are going to join that group in front of them. You can see what is the gap, about 7, well, maybe a little bit more, about 70 meters. I don't feel they're going to close that up. It's very difficult to close up a gap from a fast moving group when they're doing through and off, and here you can see them being pushed along Still the Danes that are pushing it along on the front with Feldball here, and he's got lots of class as Feldball. We've seen him regularly in some of the other competitions. In fact, there he is in the Zoom room, mouth open, breathing heavily, so you know he's working really hard. But yeah, he's a class act, is Rasmus. He's a rider I really enjoy watching, but you can see here he's really hurting because he's trying to push the pace along on the front with a couple of other riders. They're not hanging back here, they are trying, and this is the tactic. They're going to try and break up this group before we hit the climb. So that's why they're pushing hard. They're trying to whittle it down a bit before we hit the climb, but very, very soon now, in fact, within a few meters, they're going to be at the foot of this climb where it turns red. And then it's going to kick up. It's already 2.1%. It's going up now, as you can see, 2.63. So now it's going to start to bite. You can see it's now into the red, 4.7. This is going to hurt, and this is where the strong riders are going to push on and try and break this group. We can see Cervelo from the UK, he's there. Gav is there. In fact, I think you see a lot of the main contenders in this race. Wouter Klaus is hanging about in this group as well, near the front. He's one to watch later on, the Moonriders rider. Definitely one to watch. Pedersen's there. He's another man to watch, the Dane. Yeah, I mean, Holtz, he's a very strong rider, currently sitting at the front with his Danish comrades. I mean, I think we've got 4, is it, Danes up in the top? Yeah, we've got 4 Danes in the top 10 at the moment. Now, it isn't breaking up as much as I expected it to do, I'll be honest here. I did think that a group would break away of about a dozen. It might happen, but I think because the riders behind are not too far, it may well come back together. I think the front group will get away slightly, but I think it's going to also come back together. I was expecting about a dozen riders to make the break. We might get that, but I don't know. They're strung out, and it's all about whether the riders that are strung out can get back on. It looks like Keith from OTR has had another mechanical. He's sitting at the side of the road. He does have some bad luck, Keith, I have to say. He's currently showing 0 watt kilos, so I think it must be a technical. Otherwise, he would be on the bike. And these are the riders that have been dropped from that front group now. You know, they're sort of like at the back of the group, still on the climb, whereas the leaders now were very, very close to the top of the climb. I did say it went above 10%, just looking at the graphic, and you saw the graphic there, 10.9. So yeah, it went over 10%, enough to split the group. Now we've got the group fairly strung out, but I counted about 11 towards the front. I mean, 2 off the front and then the riders behind, and then not far behind those 11 were a few more. And the big question is going to be, in fact, we've got 6 now pushing off the front on the downhill because they were the first to reach it. But some of the riders behind could well close this up, or is this group of 6 going to get away? This is classic. This is what you expect when you see a steep climb in the early part of the race. And this gap needs, it's 100 meters at the moment, well, 95 meters at the moment. You can see the riders behind them on the road. They need to close this within a kilometer or 2, otherwise they're not going to catch them. If this group stay away for the next kilometer, 2 kilometers, then that's it. The game's over. It'll just be between these 6. And these 6 that have got away are very strong riders. Stinson's in there, I see. And this is a chasing group. And this, you can see 2 Danes here, Caruso, Keeble, Cervelo's surprisingly back in 11th place, just dropped off the back. Ted Keeble from Race VR development team, he's a strong rider. So if they work together, possibly they could get back on. But my feeling is they're 90 meters behind, possibly closing it up because they're on the downhill section. We'll see what happens. There's enough time for them to close up the gap if they stay together. But if this happens and they fracture, and you can see Caruso has just been dropped off the back there, when they start to fracture, when they start to split apart and not working together as a foursome, fivesome, that's when you can expect them not to be able to close the back. I mean, Rob Miller, very strong rider, the 3R rider here, is working with Kevin. So I would expect these two to possibly get back onto those riders in front. I know Rob will certainly be wanting to push and reach the riders in front, and then if they can work together, who knows, they might well get back. Yeah, there's Kevin working with Rob. So we know these two riders, we know they're very strong riders, they're endurance-based riders as well, so they're not going to sort of like lose power as we're going further into the event. I don't feel. I think they will be able to keep a steady output. The question is, are those riders in front of them going to push on and raise the pace? And here we go, look. So we've got the what are now 5 riders at the front, and these 5 riders behind chasing them. 4 riders behind chasing them. I think that those will come back together, and we're going to see a front group of 9 all together as we're watching Snaver there. Yeah, I think they may well, these 4 may well join that group in front. It's not a done deal though. The 69, 70 meters behind, they can't afford to sort of like ease up at all. They have to really push into the red and close this gap quickly, because the more the gap goes out, and it is going out. Now I often say this, it's about the will and being able to close the gap, burning matches, as I constantly say. And the group behind, the second place group, once it gets out to 100 meters, it's incredibly difficult to then ask a group to put in a huge effort to close up. And I don't think they're going to. Looking at the screen now, you can clearly see the gaps opening up between this group and the group behind, and I don't see it being closed now. Even though there's a long way to go still, you can see lots of flat, but that group behind are not going to catch these riders out front. How many have we got here? We've got 5. So we've got 5 riders that have broken off the front. It was 6, so one of them has dropped back to that small group behind. You can see Keith Aitchison, look, he's obviously just settling in. I don't know where Rasmus is at the moment. We haven't seen him for a little while, but he's not up with this front group now. Yeah, and this group of 4, in fact, are even splitting, look, as you can see. So unless they work together, this doesn't really work for me when they're sort of like battling against each other like this. They really ought to be tightly knit, staying on each other's wheels, doing through and off and working together, because they're never going to pull back these riders in front unless they do that. And even doing that, it's a tough ask. But if you're fighting each other rather than working together, you're not going to get back onto a fast moving front group like this. And the winner now today is definitely going to come out of these 5. You can see Gav is just slightly off the wheel here, struggling to stay with them. I'm saying struggling, I don't know whether he's struggling or not, but yeah, when you drop off the back like that and have to close the gap, you're generally going into the red. You're generally putting in an above threshold effort just to close up the gaps, and you don't want to be doing that too often, because you've only got so many times. We call it burning matches. You've only got so many times you can do that, and you pay for it towards the end of the race. We're not at the halfway point yet, so still plenty of time for this to change around. But these 4 riders here, 7th, 8th and 9th, 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th, they're not going to climb up and catch that group in front, purely and simply because they're aware it's now going to 200 meters plus. And this group as well, the third group on the road, they're not going to close up on the second group on the road either, because that's 140 meters. So, you know, I'm calling it now as I'm seeing it, but I've covered so many of these events on this type of course. It's pretty easy, to be honest, to stay with my predictions and know that I'm generally going to be proved correct, because a 100-meter gap on a flat section of road like this with groups working together, you're not going to be able to close that up unless you've got a couple of riders in your group that are absolutely prepared to bury themselves, possibly to close the gap and then not worry about being able to be there at the end. And that's the only scenario I see where a group of 4 or 5 or 6 riders can close up a 100-meter gap on the group in front, where you get a couple of riders prepared to bury themselves. Excuse me, I'm still a bit under the weather. Okay, so further down the field you can see that groups are forming in small numbers, and this is a sensible tactic. You don't want to be riding this kind of course, this kind of terrain on your own. There's the yellow banner, so the front group now, still 5 riders going under the yellow banner. Now what we got, 15:06. So if we do get a look back at group 2, let's see how far time-wise they are behind, but I think they're about 250 meters, if not more. Here we go. So what did we have? We had 15:06, and they're coming under the banner. The guys at the front in about 15:31, 15:32. So you've 26 seconds there. Now 26 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but it's huge. That's, well, you can see on screen, that's 330 meters, folks, and that is not going to get closed up. And here we go, you see these group as well, they're about another 25 seconds behind. We can see a rider in the middle, and that could well help this group to close up the gap slightly. But I think first group, second group, third group are going to stay as is. I don't think those positions are going to change. You may well see the odd rider switching from one of those groups to another, i.e. a rider dropping back or a rider in the middle being caught by the riders behind and joining them. Now then, what was that about? I don't know what the message on screen was about, but Christensen, we've seen quite a bit of Christensen in earlier competitions, but he's out of this one. And in fact, he's got a good few of his Danish comrades around him, but not working together. As we watch Smits and Beale here, 2 riders coming under the banner at the halfway point, and they're about halfway down the field. We've got 53 riders, so 25, 26, that's halfway point. These 2 riders working together, the 2 Danes, and you quite often see this. The Danes are particularly good, certainly the ones that have dropped off at working together and trying to claw back some time. So that makes perfect sense to me, although they've dropped one of the riders behind. He's 30 odd meters behind. There he is, look. Now it would do well for those 3 riders to allow the 2 riders to join them and work as a group of 5. And this rider's off the back 150 meters. I don't see him closing up to his colleagues in front, but never say never, because he's being joined now by a couple more riders, and if they work together, you know, who knows what could happen. As we get another look at the pain cam, Keith Aitchison, you can see out of the saddle working hard. Now he's lower down the field, and have we seen him on screen? But Rasmus, I haven't been able to call out Rasmus just recently. Don't know where he is in the field. We'll get a look at him, no doubt, before the finish. Find out where he is. He's probably listening to me as we speak now. In fact, there he is. There he is. Rasmus is at the front. That's why he's looking like. Apologies, Rasmus. I didn't see you there, lad. So well done for staying with this front group. I thought he was further down the field, but no, there he is. Fantastic, because he is, I mean, I said it earlier, he's a class act. You can see the pain. In fact, if Rasmus is there towards the end, he's definitely a contender for the win today. I'm not going to call it this early. I'm going to wait until we get a bit closer to the finish. Are these 5 riders going to stay together? My guess would be yes. And then one of them or maybe 2 of them will kick for home on that final. I did say the route ended in a climb. You can just see it's a short climb, but that's going to be hard work for these riders, because they're really pushing the watts here, and that's going to be hard work. Rasmus needs to close up the gap and stay on the wheels. He cannot afford a couple of bike lengths, because the more times you have to do that, I've already explained what happens there. You do that too many times, and then come the end of the race, you try to put in an effort and you realise you're going to pay for it. You've absolutely not enough left in the tank. So you have to stay on the wheels. You have to draft, get recovery, do your turn on the front, and then sit in, get a bit of recovery until it's your turn to go on the front again. Now, Rob Miller, he could sit on the front all day. He's a real endurance athlete, so I don't think this is going to be hurting him too much. He's pushing out good wattage, but he's not in the red. So, but it'll be I'm saying comfortable. I know Rob, and I think he will be comfortable at this pace. It's when he's pushing above the 5 and going into the red where he's going to feel uncomfortable. Now the route has, I'm not trying to say I told you so, but the route has more or less played out the way I expected. I did think that 12 riders would go clear, and then those 12 would split and we'd get 2 groups off the front. In fact, we've got 3 groups within about the first group 300, the second group 200. So within a kilometre we've got 3 groups on the road. But this group off the front, these 5 off the front, my feeling is they will stay together as a 5-some right up until we get towards that climb, that final climb. And then this group here in second place, they may well stay together too. We've got 6 riders here, and if they work well together, they can stay together. They're not going to get caught by this group behind. I'm pretty sure of that. These are 240 meter gap now, so I don't see them being caught by these riders behind. But never say never. But this is where the winner's going to come from. I'm not predicting anything there. That's just pretty obvious. It is concerning me that Rasmus Feldball here is constantly closing the gap from a few wheels back, and I've already explained why I think that's not good tactics, because I think that's going to hurt him as we're coming into the finish. I hope I'm wrong, or maybe he's just playing games. I really don't know. I've been AWOL from watching the races over the last few weeks. I haven't really done an awful lot. We've done the Love Team Time Trial series, which incidentally we've got the finals this coming Sunday. Looking forward to that. But apart from that, I haven't really done an awful lot in terms of following the racing. So I don't really know who's hot at the moment, because it can change. I mean, you know, in a couple of weeks, the form of the riders can change dramatically if they're racing on a regular basis. And so, you know, we've not been able to follow it as much as I would have liked. It really has been a difficult time for me here at home. Now, I did say we might well see some splits happening, and here you can see Holst obviously unhappy with the pace of the chasing group. Don't forget, this fellow Holst here was in the second group. He's pushed off the front of them because he's obviously unhappy with the pace. I mean, we know he's a very strong rider, but does this really make sense? Is he trying to make the group behind push on that bit harder, or does he genuinely think he's going to sort of like get away here? My feeling is he's not going to get away, and in fact, I'm saying that, and as I'm actually saying that, you can see that somebody's closing the gap. So another rider is coming up behind him, closing the gap, and the group are closing in on him. So this is going to come back together. This second spot, I say second spot, I mean second group on the road, is all going to come back together. So sadly, excuse me, Ted Keeble wasn't able to make the break. Or Holtz, should I say, wasn't able to make the break. He's been closed down. Now, I don't think he was ever in danger of getting across to these 5 riders. I just, they're too far in front. You cannot, and certainly not as a solo rider, you're never going to close a 350 metre gap as a solo rider, unless something goes drastically wrong. It's just too much of a gap to close and to expect from a fast moving group like this that are working well together, because the tactic here, and you can clearly see the lad on the front, Mark, there, you can see his wattage. He's doing 4.5, 4.6 watts, and the riders behind him are drafting him and doing you could see Walter Klaas there doing 2.7, still doing 2.7. So he's doing, you know, a full 2 watt kilos less than the rider on the front. Yes, it will be his turn to come to the front and he will push the pace up himself, but when he's drafting, he's saving that energy. And that's crucial. That's what you've got to do. It's a bit like team time trialing. Those of you that have watched me commentate on the team time trialing will understand where I'm going with this, because I explain week in, week out how important it is to stay in the draft and to get that recovery, and then take your turn on the front, push the pace, then get back in the draft and take recovery again. And it's crucial. And so when you're working, as you can see here, in a small group of 5, you need to be taking turns on the front, yes, to make sure that the pace is staying high and the group behind aren't closing the gap. And you can clearly see the group behind now, it's nearly 500 meters. So this group on the front are pushing the gap even more every pedal stroke, but they're taking it in turns. Wouter's on the front now. Now Wouter, if he gets taken to the finish, I would say of these 5 riders, he's the strongest climber in this group. And I think he'll take the win if he's pulled to the finish with this group, and I think he will be. So my money is on Wouter to take the win today, because I do think he's got the advantage. Now, having said that, Feldbau Rasmus is probably listening to me and saying, nope, Derek, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to shoot and do a long one. Look at the pain on his face. This is why, folks, you should go in the Zoom room. This is why we love the pain caves, because you can't hide. You can see Rasmus is giving absolutely everything here. He's burying himself. Now the question is about 200-300 meters away from, probably a little bit more from the climb. Can he get to the climb before they close him down? I'm sorry, Rasmus, but I don't think you're going to make this stick, lad. I just, yeah, that's my take. I don't think he's going to make this stick. I think they're going to pull him in as we reach the base of this climb. Here we go. Oh, but I tell you what, I was looking at the graphic on screen and thinking we've got a couple of kilometers. We've got a kilometer to go, so the climb is only very short. Now, can they pull him in? This is going to be a tough one to call, folks, but my money's still on Wouter. I'm still going to go with Wouter Klaas. This is exciting because we got Mark who's pulling the group back to him, to Feldball. This is going to come down to the wire. What an exciting finish. This is really, here we go, look, here we go. These two, we've got Valdemar pulling them along. There's Wouter, I told you. Wouter, for me, is going to take the win. Really strong at the end. Stimson, though, is no slouch. Oh, this is going to go down to the wire. This is going to be a kick right at the death. Who's got, in fact, you can clearly see here, the riders are like testing each other out. Who's got the biggest kick towards the end of this climb? 6.4% at the moment. Look at the face of Rasmus. He's given absolutely everything. And he's not out of it. He's still there. So there's no saying that Rasmus isn't going to take this. Mark sadly is suffering. But there's Rasmus still on the front. That's an impressive ride, Rasmus. I'm sorry I didn't call you for the win, lad, but I just... Whoa, if you take this, this will be an amazing performance. To go for a long one and then still have enough to finish it off. But I don't think so. I think my man is going to get this race. I said he was probably the strongest climber. And there he is, look. Wouter's going to take it. So, yay! I get another win. Called it right again. There's Wouter. But really good racing by the guys behind. Sadly, Mark, who closed the gap. And the other riders should really thank him. And in particular, Wouter needs to thank Valdemar here, because he was the one that pulled them back and pulled in Feldbach. So this is group 6 on the group 2 on the road, and you can see that Bach has broken clear. So we saw Holst go off the front. I wasn't able to hold it, but his comrade, another Dane, Bach, took over and was able to push on. So he's going to get the win out of the second group on the road. He's back. But look at Rasmus, absolutely dying. Keeble coming in. And we got Snever. Holtz, yeah, he did his work earlier on, trying to pull them back. I mean, it was a brave effort, but you're never gonna, you're not gonna close that kind of a gap. Kevin coming in. Really good race and really exciting finish. And it did play out much the way I expected it to. You know, I genuinely thought that if they took Wouter to that final climb and he was with them and not too far behind, he would get them on the final push, and that's exactly what happened. But I also said all 5 riders would push to the finish, and that's what happened. So yeah, on this kind of a course, it's not that difficult. I'm not telling you anything that you probably hadn't already worked out for yourselves, folks. The tactics are pretty standard when it's this kind of profile. You know, a group going off the front on the first climb, splitting up, a fairly large group, then splitting up further as we go into the flatter section of the course, because the front group pushing the pace up and doing through and off. So yeah, classic tactics played out exactly the way we expected, and I called the winner. So I'm a pretty happy bunny. This sets me up nicely for the weekend. Don't forget, on Sunday we've got the finals of the Love Team Time Trial, and we've got the wildcard final coming first, and then we've got the final, which I'm really looking forward to. But anyway, let's get back to the action tonight. You can see on screen now we've got the riders appearing with their times, etc. Absolutely nothing between the first group, well, 3 seconds between Wouter and Gav. I mean, I did say Gav Ash would push on towards the finish, and he did so. Glad to see that Rasmus did finish top 3 with that huge effort he put in to go for a long one. That was very, very brave to do, because I'm sure Rasmus would know just as well as I do that, yeah, you're going to pay for that kind of effort unless you can pull it off. Now, sometimes it will work, and we have actually seen Rasmus do that and pull it off. We've seen him break away, go for a long one, and we've seen him do it and win it. He's won stages that I've commentated on in the past doing that. So it's a valid tactic, but he'd know as well as I do that, you know, if it doesn't come off, if the group catch you, you're not going to take top spot. But well done with 3rd place. Dan Stimson took 4th. Now, this is not the first time I've seen Dan, but we haven't seen an awful lot of him coming over from Race 3R. So it's nice. It's nice that the development team are finally showing the noses. I mean, Ted Keeble as well in 7th place. So some really good racing tonight. My friend Rob Miller from Team 3R in 10th managed to get 10th place. So yeah, a nice race to commentate on. Now, while we're waiting for the riders coming in, folks, we're gonna pull up. I don't know how far behind the tail enders are. Maybe we can get a look at the last riders, but we are going to pull up the map for next week and show you next week's course, which I think it's 3R that are the have chosen next week's course. We'll know when the graphic comes up, but I seem to remember, yes, it's 3R that have, yeah, here we go, Beach Road, Melbourne, and it is, you can clearly see, it's Team 3R. They've chosen this course. Now, it looks fairly flat to me. You can see it's along the course road, so that's not going to have any hills in it, certainly. So this looks like, ooh, it looks like one for the big men, the real power riders. Let's have a look at the profile. I'm sure we'll get one. Have we got a profile? Or have we not? Okay, it doesn't look like we've got an elevation profile, but I can tell you just looking at the fact that it follows the coastline, this is flat. In fact, 100 meters. So about 1/3 of the elevation you saw tonight. I'm surprised actually that it's even got 100 meters, but so it's likely to be rolling. I don't think you're going to see any one climb on this course. You're going to see it's going to be rolling. I think it's definitely going to, oh, here we go. So you can see there's no real climbs. Yeah, there's a couple of lumps. I said rolling. I don't think you could even call it rolling. I think this is flat, and this is going to suit the bigger riders like the Rob Millers. You know, I think we're going to see a different type of race next week. Not next week, next time out. So here you've got the top 30 on screen, with Wouter taking top spot from Moon Riders, but a good all-round race. Pretty much the tactics we expected, no real surprises. Basically a fantastic race. And folks, the last rider's 5.6 kilometers behind. We're not going to, normally we hang about, but I know Damon has got a very busy weekend. I mean, he's covering races tomorrow. We've got the team time trial on Sunday, which is going to take up an awful lot of effort and time, because we're both putting in a lot of work for that. I certainly am planning on doing almost a full day's look into the riders. You know, I'm gonna have some notes so that I can call the different riders out for you, give you a bit of background into how well they're going, etc. And that's it. That's going to be a wrap. So we'll we'll call it here. We'll say good night. Thanks for watching, everybody, and tune in on Sunday when we'll be on esports television live broadcast, and expect many thousands of viewers, so don't miss it. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. That's a wrap.